Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm going to talk about Sun square to Jupiter in Synastry. So this is not a very hard square to deal with. It actually brings a lot of exuberance and enthusiasm and positive energy, but there are some dangers that the people will go to excesses with this square, and it also does tend to bring a high level of ego involvement, sometimes in kind of a negative way. If we're already dealing with two people who are kind of egotistical, the egos get brought up in a really high way in this relationship. But they generally feel very happy together. There can be a feeling like the Jupiter person feels like the Sun person is this bright light in their life, and actually the Sun person feels the same about the Jupiter person. The Jupiter person can really give a lot to the Sun person, but they can also sometimes, if they're prone to being a bit too spendy or extravagant, they could even like go into debt, spoiling the Sun person. And the Sun person can really have a big sense of ego involvement, with the Jupiter person, feeling like the Jupiter person really enhances their ego. And they actually could feel like their identity is somehow lost a bit in the Jupiter person's like big displays of extravagance, and like it is like almost even a bit uncomfortable for the Sun person at times, especially if they're a more sensitive like water or earth sign. They might feel like the Jupiter person is just a bit too excessive, or yeah, they can feel like they're losing their identity. The other thing that this aspect can show is that we're coming from different backgrounds, especially like philosophically religious backgrounds, or even just different cultures. Like, maybe we're from different countries, or we just like we've really come to believe different things about life. And sometimes, especially the Sun person is going to feel like the Jupiter person's belief systems maybe don't align with the Sun person's, what they need to have their ego stroked, or to have their confidence enhanced, or feel like they are living on purpose. The Jupiter person's way of believing, their faith, their expansive energy is sort of in conflict with the Sun person's Sun. Now, it's usually not going to be a conflict square like where we're actually fighting about this, because we still do make each other feel just so good. But there is a bit of a sense that like the Sun person especially can feel like they're losing themselves a little bit with the bigness of the Jupiter and the way the Jupiter person thinks about the world and life. The Sun person can kind of just get sucked right up in that, and the Jupiter person can really feel like the Sun person is like this confident, like boss energy, and the Jupiter person can want to give to them sometimes too much, or want to enlighten them, or teach them, when perhaps the Sun person probably wasn't asking for a lesson. So those are some of the dangers of this aspect. But for the most part, both of the people tend to exaggerate the experience of the relationship. Like, if it was just a one night stand, it was like the biggest one night stand experience they ever had. And like that's just one example. It's not like this wouldn't show up as like, this isn't a sexual aspect even, but like whatever the relationship is, you can count on both people blowing it out of proportion into something even bigger. Now, if this is overall a compatible synastry, and maybe you have some Saturn aspects to kind of ground this down, that can be a very favorable thing, because we have two people making such a big deal about the emphasis on the relationship, on how it's impacted their lives, that like this could show up in the couple that writes long Facebook posts about each other and how in love they are and how it's like the biggest thing that's ever happened to them, you know? Or just the couple that really goes all out on each other's birthdays and on buying gifts for each other. And it's just a very extravagant aspect. And it does tend to give the same feeling of positive energy and like we found something worthwhile, we found something good, we found something that's greatly enhancing our lives as the positive aspects. So yeah, it's a fun one. It can show up too in the couple that, you know, shows each other off in a big way. Like it feels like to me, the Sun square to Jupiter is like you're walking down the red carpet together and you've both got like the most extravagant, shiny outfit and like the diamonds that you're wearing are just so shiny and everything. So there's this tendency to be kind of a show off together, and actually this relationship, the bigness of it, it may cause jealousy in other people. Other people may think like, you know, why are they acting like that towards each other? Like it's almost like it's too much, or it's like gross, you know, for people that are more inward, like not so Jupiterian. They can feel like this couple is like just way too into themselves. And it's funny when you see that reaction from the outside people. They're like, wow. You can see that with Venus square Jupiter too in Synastry, where people on the outside are like, you know, it's too much. You guys are too much when you have this square in Synastry. But generally, you feel really well together. You feel really good about yourself. Minus, you know, maybe losing yourself a little bit in just the actual bigness of this union, because it really does feel like a big deal. It really does feel like your life is expanding, and the Sun person might not always agree with the direction that it's going, and the Jupiter person might feel like the Sun person's ego is too strong at times to really like accept their gifts or accept their wisdom that they feel they have. So there can be some conflict, but usually just with the square aspect, it's like even if there is conflict, they want to make it work. They don't want to spend time fighting. They want to stay in the positive energy of this aspect. And like the biggest danger is just going to excess. Too much of anything isn't a good thing, rather than that quote that's like, too much of anything is a great thing. That would be their quote for this relationship. But for astrologers' advice, you know, to you guys, sometimes it can be good to tone it down and you know, realize that this contact in Synastry is activating such a big part of you that maybe you need to look at your Saturn and like also rely on that, because Jupiter without Saturn is just too big and too expensive, and Saturn without Jupiter is just too depressing and not enough risk taking. So you want to combine them, and ideally with the Synastry, you've got some Saturn going on too, and then this can be a really beautiful contact to have in Synastry that feels bright, feels sunny, and changes the course of your life. It can really change the direction of your life when you have a Sun square Jupiter aspect in Synastry. So I'd love to know your experience of this aspect. Was it like this? Was it not like this? Let me know in the comments, you guys, and keep your requests coming. I'm adding them all to my list, and we'll talk soon. Bye.